All right, and welcome everybody. Hi, I'm Steve Farrell. I am a co-founder and the executive director of Humanities Team. Thank you for being here with us for this program here today. This is a global gathering. We're talking about our Changing Humanities Future initiative. Be sure to stay to the end because we've got, as you can see on the screen, we've got some really beautiful, powerful special guests, Neale Walsch, Suzanne Giesemann, Debra Poneman, Jude Currivan, and others, other special guests, and some video testimonies and things. So you're not going to want to miss it. This is really going to be a very powerful call. So we are talking about the Changing Humanities Future initiative. It was launched in the spring of this year, 2022, by Humanities Team, Neale Walsch, and the Conversations with God Foundation. But it has since expanded to all of our global partners, thought leaders that are luminaries that are all over the world, including these partners that you'll hear from here today, our faculty. There are many people that are conscious, that are as invested in this initiative as we are. So it started kind of small and it's grown, and we see it honestly enveloping the whole of the earth. That's really what this program is about here. Now, we launched it because many of us were in conversations, probably like you all that are watching here now, in your home or in your office or with friends or family somewhere, where a discussion began about the state of the world, and where people were hand-wringing as they were talking about climate change and our planet with its limited resources, and the Ukraine war, and if you're in the United States, Supreme Court and shooters and all of these things. And if you scan your memory, I'm going to guess that maybe all of you have been in one or more conversations like this, where people talk about the challenges that are here, the chaos, the darkness. Many people have kids, some don't. But where this whole notion of existential crisis surfaces, and where people are hand-wringing, saying, is there any way that we're going to journey out of this? Now, even in my family, there's nobody quick to stand up with the voice for conscious living other than myself. And actually, I do have one brother who worked for Humanities Team for some number of years who joined me. But in most of these conversations, there's nobody that's coming in as the voice for conscious living or unity consciousness or oneness or wholeness or whatever we want to call it. So it's just this downward spiral kind of conversation. And this is where, and we had conversation with Neale, Conversations with God Foundation around Humanities Team. We had conversation around this, and we said, all of us that are on this conscious journey know, we know, we deeply know that of course there's a way through this. And we're on that path now, and we've made incredible progress already. And it's this conscious journey path, which is what we're calling it. Again, you can call it many different things, but we said, of course, that we can get to the other side of this. Of course, this generation can celebrate something better than this, the dream that we've all had in our hearts. Of course, future generations can experience an earth with health and well-being. But we need to elevate conscious living as the thing. We need to be the voice for conscious living when these conversations happen, where people are hand-wringing and saying, oh my gosh, existential crisis, is there any way through it? And that's why we're here. This is what we're inviting you to. We're going to invite you to a number of things, but we're inviting you to be a voice in these conversations for conscious living, and you're not just a voice, we're inviting you to be an embodiment, an expression of conscious living. So we're gonna talk about that here. Now, this of course means that we're elevating conscious living as the thing, right, in these conversations. When we talk about elevating conscious living as the thing, I want to bring in two quotes, actually. I'm gonna read these quotes. We've all heard the quotes. But these are astounding quotes, because over 75 years ago, Albert Einstein shared these quotes, which just go straight at what we're talking about here right now. The first quote: "No problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it." The second quote: "A human being is part of a whole, called by us universe. Apart, limited time and space, he experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circles of compassion, to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty." So that kind of says it all. I mean, it's astonishing that over 75 years ago, this was wisdom Albert Einstein was sharing with the world, which is precisely what we're talking about here. As we're talking about elevating conscious living is the thing. Now, many of you who are familiar with Humanities Team know that almost 20 years ago, in June of next year, we began Humanities Team. Neale, Donald Walsch, and myself, and many others. There are almost 1,000 of us in Wilsonville, Oregon. And these truths that we were sharing from the stage were that we're spiritual beings, that we're one, that we're whole, and the one is benevolent, not judging or condemning or malevolent, but benevolent. That the entire one or cosmos or universe is non-dual. That we have the same properties as the one, which we call the divine and Humanities Team, but cosmos or universe or life or living works fine. And that means then that all of what science brings in, actually, I'll get to that here in just a second. It means that we're in service to life because we're a part of the one. Connection equals responsibility equals positive action. And of course, this means then we change the way that we live on the planet. And there's a lot of other wisdom. I'll just share one other, that if we don't go within, we go without. So this was what Humanities Team was about when we started almost 20 years ago, which is right in the center of this whole conscious living thing. Now, as we know today, science is affirming most of this, right? We often talk about Nassim Harriman and Greg Braden and so on, but there are speakers here today that will share from their own research and their own mediumship of truths in research and in connection. And of course, science is saying that I'll just share some of their science terms. We're sovereign to one body. We're a single organism. The universe is non-dual, it's in harmony. That the field is in you. So the properties of the one are in us at a cellular level. That it's the basis of this one, and this is from science, is love. And that we're in service to life. So that's what science brings in now. And then there are quotes that go back over 2,500 years. Let me share Plato's quote that you're probably familiar with. Okay, this is from 400 BCE, over 2,500 years ago. Human nature was originally one, and we were whole. And you probably are familiar with these quotes that are from researchers, scientists, philosophers that know from iconic leaders of the day that have been shared over time. And again, Suzanne Giesemann and Jude Currivan who are going to be presenting, are researchers and our mediums, and will bring in their own words, their own wisdom that's related to this. That is what they're feeling into today. Now, even if you have never read Conversations with God books and never plan to, you don't believe in God, you haven't followed the science, you haven't seen the quotes, you haven't you haven't seen any of the philosophy, even if all of that is true, we're glad you're here, because this initiative here that we're calling Change Humanity's Future is really about the wisdom that's at the center of the initiative. We're going to share screen a little later and show you the changing. If you go to changinghumanitiesfuture.org, write that down, changinghumanitiesfuture.org, you can read all of this wisdom. And we invite you, again, if you don't believe in any of this stuff, just to sit with the wisdom, put it in your lap, sit with it. And today, with all of this challenge in the world, see if you believe, if you resonate with that wisdom, and you believe that it's a nice way to live and that you don't have a better way to live. Because we've talked to many people who don't believe in any of these things, who have shared they don't see a better way to live. And we are looking for champions, participants, contributors to Changing Humanity's Future. The only way we do something as grandiose as changing humanity's future is where there's this huge level playing field where the 8 billion people, or a big chunk of that 8 billion, come in and believe as we do that there is this path, that we're actually well along the path, and that we can get there in this generation. So now, as you can probably tell, this is our why here in Humanities Team. You can probably feel, the passion, the devotion, the dream. It's what we all have in Humanities Team. And that we can let go of worry, this hand-wringing thing, gone, where we join together hand in hand and journey to this vision, to this dream that we know is possible. So, and as you know, the particular download that we got was to make conscious living pervasive worldwide by 2040, which is 18 short years from now. So I'm sure, just in what I'm sharing, the importance of this and the urgency of this is you can see. Now, a lot of the wisdom that's here in this initiative actually has, I'm going to call it, bled out into the world. This notion of interconnection, of oneness, et cetera, that there's enough. If we don't go within, we go without, and these kinds of things. They're out in the world. What's happened, though, is to this point, a global undertaking hasn't taken foot. We haven't decided that we're going to put this at the center of our journey, this as priority of living consciously, where we're an embodiment of it, an expression of it, a voice of it. That hasn't happened. So that's what Changing Humanity's Future is about, is inviting everybody here that's not here by chance at all, to where you believe this is true, where it resonates deeply for you, to become that embodiment, that expression, that voice. So when we do, I'm putting a lot of the focus here on the collective, the earth, the challenge out in the world, darkness, chaos, etc. But the beautiful thing that I know you know, because everybody here is on this conscious journey, is that it actually starts, the fruit of it starts at an individual level in our own homes, where I'm going to call it the deliciousness of life is here, where we understand true prosperity. And I came from Silicon Valley, where everybody thinks, oh, that's all the prosperities in Silicon Valley. No, it's not. No, the deliciousness of life and true prosperity, that's all coming back to us. That's what we experienced. And even if there were no collective issue here, even if there were nothing important or urgent about this journey on this planet to conscious living, it'd be every bit worthwhile because of the incredible prosperity that we feel, where we're in this state of connection and looking out into this world that's sacred, and where we're taking responsibility, and where we're going to our own station in life and taking positive action in one form or another. So now I just want to share screen real quick, and then we're going to go to these other speakers. Garth Catterall is going to share screen, and we're going to put up the Changing Humanity's Future page quickly so you can see it. We're going to then in Zoom over in the chat, we're going to put a link so you can come back to this page. If you haven't read this page, invite you to come back. This is the wisdom that I've been talking about here, referencing conversations with God, referencing science, referencing philosophy is here. Collect it up, it's here. And invite you to come back later and spend quality time with this page. This is one of the invitations to you during this meeting. Okay, the second invitation, Garth, if you can share the action step page. This action step page is where we collected up wisdom that speaks to all of us, again, here or on the conscious journey. You can see their numbered steps here. The first step, talking about just that still small voice within that guides us. Okay, and these action steps that can propel our journey, accelerate our journey, help us to deepen our journey when we talk about living consciously. So this is a second call to action. We're putting this link in the chat to come back and review these action steps. We'll be putting lots more action steps in here. And then the third screen we'll share is a donate screen. And this is where you can come during the holidays or during this program. Here it is. So the donate page. You can financially contribute to this. Again, some of you that are here, I know this is your why too. You feel the same importance that I'm talking about here, and invite you to financially contribute. I'm guessing most of you or all of you are into philanthropy, and that this can become part of your family philanthropy if this is your why also. Okay, with that, I'd now like to go to Neale Donald Walsch. And after Neale, Suzanne Giesemann, then Jude Currivan, and then Debra Poneman, and then I'll share their four that will come right after the first four. And Neale, thank you for being here. Neale needs no introduction. We all know who Neale Donald Walsch is.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you all for being here and joining with us in this moment. A moment that could be a moment of importance, really, for all of us, not to oversell what's happening, but to just take a clear, close look at it, which I've had occasion to do for several reasons in my life. Not simply because, like all of us, I've had the experience that I have chosen to call conversations with God. Other people call it, a moment of inspiration, an epiphany, women's intuition, a brilliant idea, whatever you want to call it. But all of us are having this interaction with the divine, whatever we call it. But I've had some other interactions with life that have placed this whole conversation that we're having here today into a different context, at least for me. And that is, at 3 times in my life, I have faced a possibility that my life could be over. And I don't mean, in the distant future, but I mean immediately over. I've had a loaded gun pointed to my face by a very angry man, and I had no reason to believe that I would escape that moment. I've had open heart surgery when I thought I was going to have maybe a triple bypass. It turned out to be not a triple bypass, not a quadruple bypass, but a quintuple bypass. And before the surgeon, put me under, he said, just so you're prepared, you may not wake up from this procedure. So make your arrangements with your maker, and you're lying there at the table, in the surgery room, very clear that these could be the last thoughts you'll ever have consciously. And I've had other moments as well, where if you've lived any kind of a life, if you're over 16, I would imagine, you may have had the good fortune of having your own life placed before you in a way that causes, at least it caused me, to ask a simple question. Really, what am I doing here? Who am I? What is my purpose? What is the function of all of life? I've been asking those questions since I was 13 years old. How did I get here? What am I doing here? What's the point of all this? On top of which, the larger question that came to me as I observed life all around me: why is the world the way it is? Why can't we be nicer to each other? What is it that we don't understand? And then I got very clear after my own conversation with God, because of course one day, 27 years ago, I called out to the God of my understanding. Okay, because I was living on the sidewalk. I had nowhere to go. I was sleeping on the concrete. was going from person to person with my hand out. Anything would help. And finally, when I managed to work myself out of that situation and find myself back into a tiny little garage top apartment behind someone's house, I was able to ask God, okay, come on. If you really are existing, if there really is a God, what is it that I don't understand? That very few of us here understand. Apparently, from what I'm observing, the understanding of which would change everything. Must be something. What's the secret? And then I began to look around, to listen to people who had found, if not the whole secret, at least some important element of the secret. That's what today is about. You're going to be blessed today to hear from extraordinary people who have found, if not the whole secret, a huge portion of the secret that has allowed them to commit themselves to a larger way of living. It's allowed them to commit to conscious living and to a way to move, a way of, I want to say, to a way of moving through life that gives their life a larger purpose than just simple survival. Because if you've had the blessed experience of coming face to face with death, imminent death, the possibility, if you've had that blessed experience, as I have had 3 times in my life, when you come out of that moment, you have to ask yourself, if you're any kind of person, why? Okay, why? I mean, can I do something with this gift that I've been giving now? I've lived past that threatening moment, and here I am again. Why? So I want to invite you to consider today a larger question than most of us are used to considering, in our day-to-day life. When I was a young guy, in my late teens and early 20s, the formula for life seemed very simple to me. It was very simple. Get the job, get the car, get the girl, in that order. and maybe get the wife, get the kids, get the better job, get the better car, get the better wife, and it was just about leading me to where I didn't even know where I was going. Surely there's something missing that I don't understand, and there has been and there is. So I urgently invite you to be with us for this entire program today and listen to what these gentle people whose pictures you'll see on the screen have to share with us. You think it's a coincidence that you're here today? It's not a coincidence. I want to suggest to you that your soul brought you here today, and not even to tell you something you don't already know, but to remind you that you've always known it, and that there are others who have joined you here to share their knowingness of it as well. So that at the end of this program today, you'll be part of humanity's team in a functional, active, vibrant way. And let me share with you at the end of my little moment here today how that happened in my life. I had a dream many years ago, 35 years ago. I had a dream that, because I was asking the same questions we all ask. Why are people behaving with each other the way they do? What's going on? And in the dream, I saw kind of a playing field. I'm not quite sure what it was, a football field, but a big grassy area. And there were bunches of people playing some kind of a game that they called life on this field. But they all had different jerseys on: yellow jerseys, green jerseys, red jerseys, brown jerseys, blue jerseys, orange jerseys. And they all, I could see by the jerseys they were wearing, they were all fighting for their own tribe, their own team. They were all on their own team trying to win the game. And I remember waking up in tears thinking, but who will be on humanity's team? Why can't we all wear the same jersey? And in that moment, I ran to my computers and I jumped on the computer to see if the words humanity's team had been taken. I got, no, there's no way in the world that every domain name having any value is already gone. But believe it or not, the domain name humanitiesteam.com was available. And do you think I grabbed it? In a moment, And I created Humanity's Team, and I invited a handful of people to come to my house to talk about creating such an organization. And Steve Farrell, wonderful, wonderful angel, Steve Farrell, was one of those people who came to my home. And I said, who wants to play? Who wants to play on the same team? Steve raised his hand and said, I'm in, man. I am in. And he had a lot to, how could I put it, a lot to lose in the sense that he was a highly successful businessman with a sought after businesses in Silicon Valley. He wasn't looking for how he's going to put the next meal on his table. He had done, to put it simply, he had done very well in life, and understandably so, because he's a brilliant, brilliant guy. But he said, you know what? I'm done with that. This makes sense to me. So together we created Humanity's Team as an opportunity for all of you to make the same decision, to finally make some sense of your life so that we can live into what Einstein shared with us and what wonderful William Shakespeare shared with us as well. Remember what Bill said? There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. We, you and I, and those of us on this screen here right now, have the opportunity to share what that more is. There are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy. You want to know what we're talking about? Listen to the people who will be sharing with you now in the moments just ahead. They'll tell you what the more is. And then all of us joining together can create a bigger vision for ourselves and for our species than we might ever have thought possible as we move into the secrets of conscious living.
Okay, thank you, Neale. And Suzanne Giesemann is coming up next, and then Jude Currivan, and then Debra Poneman.
Hi, everybody. Listening to Neale talk, I realized that it usually takes a big wake-up call for most human beings to realize there's something more than just this life. Happily for me, it wasn't somebody putting a gun in my face like it was for Neale, but unhappily, it was the death of my stepdaughter, who was a sergeant in the Marine Corps. In 2006, she was crossing the flight line at work and was struck and killed by lightning. She was 27 years old and 6 months pregnant at the time. I was recently retired from the Navy after having a full career in the Navy and had no tools to fall back on to deal with the grief. So I turned to spirituality, greatest move I could have ever made. I discovered that Susan is still part of our lives, as are all of your loved ones who have passed. I was the aide to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, a Navy commander serving at the absolute highest level of the US military. For me, at that time, the concept of oneness was a kumbaya thing that other people talked about. I didn't understand it as a real concept in my life. We're talking about global issues. Steve brought them up at the beginning. But this concept of oneness, it starts right here in your heart. I learned this in trying to connect with Susan myself. I began meditating the week that she passed, knowing there had to be something more, that we can't kill this spirit that animates all of us. And you know what I found out? I was right. Because your soul already knows there's something more, your soul knows we are all connected at a deeper level than this physical level. And that's what oneness is. And what connects us is love. It's a divine love that goes so far beyond human love. Love for me in a divine sense is lack of separation, where everything's connected. You know, when you fall in love with someone, you feel this total connection. There's nothing that separates you. That's at the human love level. Beyond the human level, we are all connected by this divine love. So over the years of meditating and trying to connect with Susan, I've realized that we can all learn to connect with higher consciousness because we are souls. I've opened up a pretty darn clear connection with spirit. And because of my left brain background, anytime I connect across the veil, I ask for evidence. Show me I'm not just making this up. And that's what has led me to create a way of teaching people how to get connected themselves. I call it the awakened way of living that shows very clearly three things. You are not only human. So if you're not only human, what are you? Yes, you're a soul, but also you are a direct emanation of that one light of consciousness. That's the oneness. Number two, you're part of one big web connecting all that is. And I know you can bring up synchronicities in your own life to show that you're connected to something beyond this human life. And the third one, the third principle of the awakened way of living is that the creative healing force of the universe is love. So how do you get to the point where you come to know oneness? I call it the 3 E's. The first one is educate yourself about the greater reality. And that's what I love about Humanities Team. They have this Humanities Stream program with all of these classes. I won't go into too much detail, but you want to get education about what lies beyond and who you really are, check that out. The second E is experience for yourself the greater reality. You can read about it, hear about it all you want, but you must touch that oneness within yourself. And that starts with sitting quietly and shutting out the outer world. That's one way of getting that personal experience. And the third E is engage higher consciousness for yourself. And you do that moment by moment by trusting that there is something so much greater than yourself and asking for guidance. That same source that Neale talked about, talking to him, it will talk to all of us because it is us at the deeper levels. 3 hours ago, right now, I sat in this chair and did a reading for a client. I didn't know anything about her at all. Most of my clients want to talk to loved ones who have passed, but I always ask first, what's your intention? Because a strong, clear intention on your part will get you what you need. She said she actually only wanted guidance for her personal life, which was a little rocky. It's not normally what I do, but it's possible for any of us to tap into higher guidance because no matter what we're tapping into, it contains all. It's the one field of consciousness. I have a feeling Dr. Jude Currivan is going to talk about that. So normally I might think, how do I know what she needs? But this is the key. You and I don't have to know. Just trust that there is this greater source that will give you exactly what you need as it serves the greater good. So with her healing in mind, I tuned in right away, was able to tell her, well, I can see that you're married and your marriage is actually pretty good. You have a very supportive husband, but you've grown a little bit separated over time. So her guides actually gave very clear guidance on how to bring a little bit of that romance back into her life, very practical guidance about loving him and nurturing him, not to get anything in return, but it would bring her what she needed in return. Then the guides clearly showed me her holding several stones. I said, these are like crystals, but I know you actually have these. And they're showing me how some stones have words on them. And the word that pops out is joy, joy. You have a stone that has to do with joy. She looked at me. She was actually having the reading from her car. She's in her car on my Zoom screen. She looked at me. She leaned over. She picked up this little box. She said, Suzanne, I literally just bought this stone. She pulls it out. It's a crystal. She said, let me read to you what's on the box right here. And it says, this stone reminds one to nurture others by sharing love and joy. Exactly what the guides knew she needed to share with her husband using the stone and the term joy. How do magical, wondrous moments like that happen? How did I know it? Because I and you and all of us are connected to this one source. And moment by moment, you can tap into that. As we raise our consciousness one by one, the whole planet benefits. And that's what Humanities Team's programs are all about. So thank you for being part of this today and joining and being part of changing humanity's future. It's such an amazing initiative. And I thank you all for allowing me to be with you today.
Thank you, Suzanne. Beautiful. Yes, and Jude Currivan is up next.
Thank you, everyone. And as Suzanne has just said, it's my delight, wholehearted joy. Thank you for bringing joy into our circles, Suzanne, to be with everyone today and to be part of Humanity's team and this incredible initiative. As a cosmologist, I've been curious about the nature of reality all my life. So what I'm going to share today is where that curiosity has brought me to. Our entire universe, as scientific breakthroughs and evidence at all scales of existence and across many fields of research are discovering, not only exists and evolves as a living and unified entity, but that its unity meaningfully exists and purposefully evolves from simplicity to ever greater levels of complexity and diversity. Its appearance of energy and matter and space and time are now being revealed as arising from deeper non-physical levels of causation and cosmic intelligence, with mind and consciousness not something that we have, but literally what we and the whole world really are. From its birth 13.8 billion years ago, not in the implied chaos of a Big Bang, but as the first moment of a wonderfully ordered, exquisitely fine-tuned and ongoing big breath, as space has expanded and time flowed ever since, its embodiment of an innate evolutionary impulse has led from protons to planets to plants and to people. Converging with universal wisdom teachings, the science of this emergent cosmology is a science of life and a science of love. And its story of our universe is our story. It's showing us that we are inseparable and we belong with each other, with our planetary home, Gaia, and the whole world. We're microcosmic co-creators of its innate impulse to experience, to know itself at individuated and collective levels of awareness and interdependence, and to evolve. Revealing the ever-increasing evidence of this unitive understanding offers us a collective moment of choice. To continue living the illusion of separation, and so continue to embody the collective trauma of its consequential suffering, or to choose life and to choose love. And if this is our choice, without judgment or blame, to acknowledge and resolve and release the trauma of the past and heal our relationship with ourselves, each other, Gaia, and the wider cosmos, and to offer ourselves authentic hope and empowerment for all of us together to change humanity's future. In doing so, we have the evolutionary opportunity and invitation to consciously live. And as my dear friend, Michael Linfield, told me a while ago and has named, to live and to love as Gaians, to consciously live as Gaians. Perceiving Gaia in her entirety as a living being, not only the biosphere of her biological children, including ourselves, but as Indigenous wisdom has taught us, her whole Gaia sphere that exists and evolves with innate interdependence, and indeed with intimate relationship with our sun and moon and the whole world. And to do so multidimensionally, as Suzanne has said, this emergent cosmology of unified reality is multidimensional, and its unity enables us, as Suzanne has shown, the synchronicities, that our ability to connect and engage with and naturalize such engagement with multidimensional awareness is our heritage and it's our destiny. Michael, in describing ourselves as Gaians, asks, what's the difference between living as a human being and living as a Gaian? And as humans, we go about our lives looking at the world as an external reality, something outside of ourselves. As a Gaian, we think, feel, and act within a deeply sensed knowledge that the whole earth lives inside of us, and we live inside of the whole earth. As Gaians, we are a macrocosm of Gaia, a sacred space of synthesis where life meets life and knows itself to be one with all. So healing and deepening our conscious relationship with Gaia is, I believe, fundamental for changing humanity's future and living consciously. And what this emergence does, and what humanity's team are doing so wonderfully, and now we hope as widely as we can possibly do so to serve this initiative, is that from the earliest times, we as humans have shared narratives and told stories to try and understand the nature of the world and our place in it, to offer meaning and purpose, and to reconcile our inner and outer experiences of life. Now we have the opportunity, with this emergent cosmology and this integral understanding of wholeness, to draft a unitive narrative to underpin and frame our work, our service, to help change humanity's future, empowering our conscious evolution, our conscious revolution, our conscious we-volution, and the potential not just to change, but completely transform our collective future. I'll just complete by sharing some comments from some work that I've been doing recently with some of my colleagues and friends in our Evolutionary Leaders Circle to co-draft such a unitive narrative based on this emergent understanding, and to do so by paraphrasing philosopher Teilhard de Chardin, who wrote over a century ago, when the guns, the terrible guns of the death of World War I were quieting, and at the very beginning of the possibility we now have. And that's when this initiative, I think we can trace back, and began to stir. In the death and destruction of that conflict, began to stir the possibility of a new potential. And Teilhard wrote, "Someday we shall harness the power of love. And then, for the second time in the history of the world, humanity will have discovered fire." We would say that that someday is here and now. And as we wake up to the radical reality of a new and unitive narrative, we'll also discover as a species, and perhaps for the first time, who we really are, and who we can consciously live as and evolve to become. So thank you all, and all of us, for being together today. And thank you, Neale and Steve, all those years ago, Neale for having the dream, and Steve for answering its call.
Oh, and thank you, Jude. And yes, we're here with other Gaians, aren't we? Beautiful. And thank you for that beautiful message. And over to Debra Poneman.
Well, that was stunning, Dr. Jude. Thank you so much. My heart is just open. And yes, it is an honor to be here with Steve and Neale, and with you, Dr. Jude and Suzanne, and all of you who are listening this morning to support the vision of Humanities Team. Actually, I feel moved to talk about Humanities Team today because I do feel honored to be a part of this team. I remember the first time I was invited to be a part of something called Global Oneness Day, many, many years ago, by this group called Humanities Team. And I thought, wow, Humanities Team. This must be a team of people whose desire, whose intention is simply to serve humanity. I'm in. Just like Steve, you said to Neale, I am in. I am in to be a part of a group that exists to raise the vibration of this planet. And soon I found that that was the mission. In fact, the mission was to change humanity's future, to make conscious living pervasive worldwide by 2040. I mean, what a vision, what a boat to hop on as it's going down the river. I wanted to be a part of it. So I joined that team and I put on that jersey, first by being a speaker and a host during Global Oneness Day, and then which then became Global Oneness 3 days, and then Global Oneness 5 days, and then Global Oneness Week, as it expanded and touched more and more hearts and more countries around the world. Then I created a masterclass with the amazing Christy Whitman, and I became a part of the Humanities Team Advisory Board. I joined in the mission to be part of a team that's taking action in order to contribute to help awaken each person's individual consciousness. But here's the thing, as more and more individuals become awake, one day there's going to be enough people waking up that there is going to be a state change on the planet. Like when water starts to boil, that there's going to be a moment when all of humanity recognizes that we are one, that, as Neale says, we're just fingers on the same hand. And speaking of Neale, in his Conversations with God books, God makes it clear that if we want to create a world where we come together as one, a world of high vibration, a world bathed in love, a world where everyone thrives, we all have to take action. And it's one of the 10 principles here at Humanities Team. We can't just wish it. And that's why we're here today, because we have it on good or God authority that the time to take action is now, not tomorrow. Now is the time we need to act. And global oneness is not a pipe dream. Science, I'm not a scientist, but I can read what science says, and science is on our side. Steve mentioned this. And I want to share a little bit of science with you. And another quote from Albert Einstein, who said many years ago, well, now, of course, I'm forgetting the quote, everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. It can be no other way. This is not a philosophy. This is physics. That is a quote from Albert Einstein. And we all know, at least intellectually, that everything in the universe, in all of creation, is made up of waves of energy. And Nobel laureate physicist Eugene Wigner further clarified that our consciousness also is at its basis. Our consciousness is made up of the same fundamental energy, and our consciousness, our thoughts, can affect matter. So when our consciousness vibrates with love, vibrates with peace, vibrates with coherent, with joy, with excitement about new ideas, it causes ripples of high vibration energy throughout that underlying unbounded field of consciousness. And these influences, these ripples influence the entire field, the entire world, and the consciousness of others. Humanities Team provides us with wisdom from dozens through Humanities Stream, with dozens of the world's greatest thinkers, the world's greatest transformational teachers, that not only spark in us the desire to adopt behaviors that raise our own consciousness, but then we affect the field. So we learn from these transformational leaders behaviors like gratitude. From Lynn McTaggart, we learned about intentioning for one another, behaviors like meditating and chanting and dancing. Yes, you could even learn how to dance on Humanities Stream, like singing and loving and praying and drumming and doing yoga and being voices for conscious living. And as fantastic as it may seem, cutting-edge research published in highly reputable peer-reviewed journals has repeatedly shown that when a sufficiently large number of people come together, like we do during Global Oneness Week, or our viewing parties, or our master classes, that this has this collective experience of positivity, of high vibration excitement, produces a measurable shift in the collective consciousness. There have been documented studies here in the US, actually based on FBI crime statistics and other internationally respected measures, that during times when groups of people are gathered for good, there is a measurably significant reduction in crime, in violence, in war, in accidents and hospitalizations, and an increase in peace and wellness and mental and physical well-being, even increases in the stock market when groups of people come together. There's literally nothing that it does not influence in a positive manner. This phenomenon is actually the most thoroughly documented social science phenomenon in history. And how reliable is this data? Well, I won't go into all the details, but the probability of these things happening without these groups of people coming together is less than 5%, which brings us back to here and now, to this moment when hundreds of us are putting our collective consciousness together and putting our hearts into a mission to raise the collective consciousness, to change humanity's future. Personally, I feel genuinely and deeply happy and grateful for even having the opportunity to be part of a team with such a wide-reaching potential for good. Being part of humanity's team is not only a gift to yourself, but really a chance to get good karma by contributing to the upliftment of the world. So I invite you to take advantage of this opportunity before you to support humanity's team, to help our efforts to create a new world, a better future for all of humanity where nobody is left out. Humanity's team even has initiative when programs are purchased that somebody who is having some financial difficulties gets a program. I mean, it's incredible. And as Neale has said, we are all just one decision away from changing the world. Or as we say here at Humanity's Team, we are just one decision away from changing humanity's future. So thank you for letting me share. And it really is a joy and an honor to be with all of you today.
Okay, amen and amen. And to all of the speakers, let's take a moment here. So all the speakers we've heard from so far, wow, that was something. Neale, Suzanne, Jude, and Debra. And next, Debra Moldow, Kurt Johnson, Dr. Roshanak, and Adam C. Hall are coming on. So hey, what a thank you all. Wow, really lighting it up there. And so again, next is Debra Moldow.
Hello, Steve and Neale, and all of you beautiful conscious beings who are on this call today. I just want to share something very personal and brief, a little story about the time when my elderly mother was living with me in the early 2000s, and her faculties were in decline at that time. And the one thing that she loved to do was to go to the movies. So every week I would try to find a movie that I could take her to and that I would enjoy. And I would comb the listings, and everything listed would either be violent with car crashes and planets exploding, or it would be about Armageddon, or it would be some grim, depressing drama, or some stupid drunken comedy. And it was just really, really hard for me to find anything I could sit through. And I realized then that I wasn't watching much television anymore either. I was watching the news and maybe the occasional British mystery. But that was it. And I saw that I was becoming hugely alienated from the culture around me in the United States. After a while, I started to catch on that it was because I was becoming more conscious, and the media was not reflecting that in any way, shape, or form. And I began to notice that I was spending more time on the internet, and the internet was starting to offer opportunities to hear programming by some of the authors and writers that were inspiring me. And so when Humanities Team came online, and when I first met you, Steve, and heard about this initiative at the United Nations, I was very excited because I could already start to relate to the concept of conscious living that you are making now much more visible and much more available to people. And then when Humanities Team started doing its educational programming that has developed into Humanities Stream, then there was finally a platform where people like me could find the kind of inspiration that the speakers today have been offering. So I really want to see Humanities Team, and especially Humanities Stream, be empowered to expand even beyond maybe the wonderful educational programming that you have now, into entertainment, into music, into so much more, because this is what the awakening humanity needs in order to come together, to find our tribe, and to have a place where we can gather, where we can be uplifted, where we can feel into the consciousness of the unity that we are as one humanity and one life on this beautiful planet. So I just want to give a big shout out and congratulations to Humanities Team for the brilliant inspiration that we get from Neale Donald Walsch and the visionary leadership of Steve Farrell. And I want to encourage everybody listening to participate as you are now and give it your full support. Thank you so much.
Okay, beautiful. Wow. Thank you, Debra. And Kurt Johnson is up next.
Yeah, so it's great to be here in the context of the partnerships with Humanities Team for both the evolutionary leaders, the synergy circles of the evolutionary leaders, and the Light on Light Press. So this is actually going to be a everything that's going on moment as far as this report. So if we talk about the amazing relationship of the evolutionary leaders and Humanities Team, as you know, Steve and his coterie were one of the founders of the Conscious Business Synergy Circle. We did together the Conscious Business Summit, the report back on that, which was the Conscious Business Magazine, and then the number of programs that we've done on Voice America about conscious business. And just by chance, the program that's running now on Voice America happens to be by the Synergy Circle for Conscious Business at the Evolutionary Leaders. And it's on conscious leadership with Paul Poneman, the founder of Unilever, Ronaldo Brutico, the founder of Just Capital, and Peter Matisse, the founder of Conscious Business Institute. And you can easily find that by just Googling the convergence at Voice America and choosing the program Conscious Leadership. So all of that's come from Steve's work. And then if you want to find the report back from the Conscious Business Summit, that's still evergreen now. You can find that at issuu.com. I'll put this in chat as well. issuu.com/lightonlight, and just look for the cover that says Conscious Business. That's the whole book that was curated by Steve and his team from the Conscious Business group. And then, of course, we can't forget, as we've said, that the Conscious Business Summit. There were 50 evolutionary leaders that were a part of the Conscious Business Summit this year, and 6 of the synergy circles. And actually, going back to what was originally said by Steve, you know, my PhD and background is in evolutionary biology. So some of those programs that were heavy on the science were the ones that I was really so privileged to be a part of. So those programs are evergreen, you know, at Humanities Team. So be sure and go back and visit the Global Oneness Summit. So what's coming also in our partnerships in the spring is an event in Sedona, Arizona. The evolutionary leaders are doing. Steve and Humanities team will be a big part of it, called Igniting the Holo Movement. And it's actually just a big bow and a joining of that big jersey that Neale was talking about, where we really make this effort to have a jersey that's the same for everyone working together. So that's going to be exciting, moving all of this energy ahead. So the last point is simply this from the Light on Light Press, and that is we're working with Steve for publication in the spring of his new book, A New Universal Dream, My Journey from Silicon Valley to a Life in Service to Humanity. So I'll just say that again, Steve Farrell's new book, A New Universal Dream, My Journey from Silicon Valley to a Life in Service to Humanity. And what's great about it is it's the whole backstory, not only of Steve Farrell, but the whole backstory of Humanities team, which Neale was just referring to more briefly before. But it'll just, the book is so inspiring as his life story, and actually the transition that all of us make from the little me to the big we. So these are exciting times. It's such a privilege to be here on behalf of both the ELs and Light on Light Press to join today. And let's just keep the energy going. This is real. Let's do it. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kurt. Yes, the little me to the big we. That is what it's all about. Beautiful. Thank you. And Dr. Roshanak is up next.
Hi, thank you so much. I am also very excited to be here. As everyone else has mentioned, you know, it's such an honor to be part of Humanities team. And actually, we're all part of Humanities team because we're all part of one fabric of the existence of our civilization, without which we'd all be really unhappy in the fact that we obliterated ourselves. We wiped ourselves off the planet. Do we want that? No, of course we don't. And we are as much a part of nature as everything else. And when we deny our nature, I'm a scientist, I'm a neuroscientist. When we deny our nature, we put ourselves into a false inferiority. We judge ourselves, we blame and shame ourselves. And in doing so, we blame and shame each other. And when we're in that shame, our brain changes. You could see a kind, friendly face. And if you look under a scanner and see someone's brain, when they see a kind, friendly face, they think, oh, that's great. It's a kind, friendly face. But when you put someone else in a scanner who's in that shame, who's in that trauma, then actually that area of the brain, that frontal cortex that lights up, it doesn't light up anymore. And another part of the brain does light up, the one that leads you to fear and anxiety. And when we talk about moving into living consciously, which is the mission of Humanities team, then we start to really uncover how it affects us personally. So living consciously is moving us from a fear-based survival to thriving, to creating a world in which we can all thrive. And that's real science, that's practical. There's psychology, there's neurobiology, there's physiology, there's physics behind all of that. So when we all want to live a better life, then we have to look inside and ask, what does it take? It takes three things. It takes action, it takes perseverance, and it takes facing our fears. All of those require two things: education and inspiration. Science brings us into an understanding of nature. It makes the intractable tractable. We help understand our nature, our own human nature, how it is that these amazing feats of engineering our bodies, which is run by the central servo of the brain, are able to do what they do. What is it that animates this body? It's our spirit. And that's the thing that we want to keep strong and supported. That is what gives us the inspiration. So the energy that drives us is so fundamental to what it is that makes us one. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. It's one of the fundamental laws of physics, and there are very few laws in science. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. It isn't anything but transformed, and we are all connected through this. You don't believe it? Look back at the pandemic. We found that all the different parts of our lives that we fragmented, financial, physiological, our immune systems, social, professional, personal, suddenly we realized that all of these teams were very much connected to each other, and we were connected ourselves to each other. We didn't function optimally without each other. This interdependence is key to our thriving, not just surviving. We need to survive first, absolutely. And then what we really want is to thrive. We want to be alive. We want to be passionate. We want to have meaningful lives. And one of the fundamental pathways to having a meaningful life is coherence, it's connection. So while it's wonderful to have independence and have this narrative of our individual being, of our freedoms, that doesn't exclude, and nor should it blind us to the fact that we need each other and we work best together. The brain has specific pathways that allow us to understand our agency in the greater context of the environment of other. That's how we can evaluate ourselves. That's how we observe and form ourselves as we create these constructs of self within a larger paradigm of the world model. These come from narratives, stories. So when we connect ourselves to each other without blame and shame and judgment, but listen to each other's stories and connect to our own stories, then we can come into and truly connect to one team, humanity's team. And this is why we want to move into global consciousness, because when we live consciously, we are living with awareness. I'll tell you one last thing before I go. Our movement is our behavior. You can't behave, you can't have any action without action. And that comes from the brain giving signals to your body to move, right? To take action. Scientifically, less than a decade ago, there was a paper that came out in PLOS ONE that showed that when we have a real intention for the direction of our action, it changes the force, the power, and the direction of the action and the behaviors that we take. When we don't, it is weak and it is omnidirectional. If we want to move into creating a better world, a better life for ourselves and for the world in which we live, because we all live in this world, then having that intention is so important. It starts with intention biologically that will then drive you more powerfully into that action. So action and then perseverance. Don't give up so quickly. Face your fears, keep going. This is how we win together as humanity's team. Thank you.
Okay, I'll amend to that, Dr. Roshanek, and she, along with Jacqueline Way and Neale Donald Walsh, do a program on Clubhouse every Wednesday afternoon. So it's a humanities team program. So check that out, viewers. So next, Adam C. Hall is up.
Well, thank you, Steve, and greetings, everyone. I am too honored to be here, and a big wow to all our speakers and hearts and souls that have been sharing with us today. I must say I'm inspired. I'm more optimistic than I ever have been. I feel the faith and love moving through me. So thank you all today. And it was nearly 17 years ago to the date that I was feeling anything but. As a matter of fact, I was paradoxically living the quintessential life. I was exceeding in every way of my life, but I wasn't. I felt as if I was really hanging on the end of that proverbial rope. It was the Tums in the morning and the tequila at night. And then I heard that there was a life to serve that's greater than my simply narcissistic self. And I began that journey that wound me up here today. To come home today with all of you, to come back to family and of humanities team, to come to this presence of the life that we're all living. And I began a journey of deep research and travels and study and all the things that happened to explore, is there a future? Because at that time, I didn't think there was any future. I was ready to check out, really, to be quite frank with you. But ultimately, it led me to that simple feeling as God, is everything just really changing all the time? Where can I find my sense of peace, my inner being? How can I take this journey to something greater than myself? And of course, we hear it all the time. Change is the only constant. And I put a question mark behind that. Is it true that change is the only constant? And as I began my study and research into the quantum, and Neale spoke into the secrets of life, I discovered a few, and I want to just briefly share with them, with each of you today, because we're in this great journey together. And what I discovered is, no, it's not the only constant. Because in the quantum, we hold these proverbial two sides of a coin, the non-physical reality and the physical reality. And of course, in the physical reality, change is the only constant. But in the non-physical reality, changelessness, the presence of spirit, to God, to greater being, Wantanka, whatever that may be for you, is changelessness. And it invited me, as I brought those two seemingly separate realities into one, to one quantum coin. It invited the journey to explore how we might together engage and go through this period of time, which we have now begun in fullest earnest, of great, great earth changes. Everything is up for radical change, yet in our inner being, nothing is about to change, because herein lies the presence of the love that we share together and what we can do together. And as the scientists are saying, we've reached this punctuated point in evolution where the rate of change is happening in a very short period of time. And this is true. And it reminded me of a funny moment I had when I was taking my youngest daughter, Hannah, to the amusement park. And we went, and there's a ride called Superman, and it would go like this. And it would shoot you out, and you go up into the sky. And when you hit the pinnacle of that moment, what was there? Well, Superman was there. It was called the Superman ride. And then you'd fall back to earth. Well, the beauty of this time is we are on this ride together of great change. And I really lean into our ancient ones, the shamans, who knew many of these secrets and that lived in harmony with our Pachamama, that invited us to transition and move through these great times of change, because they weren't seeking to change anything. They were seeking only to bend their perception of what changes. In other words, to be in the presence of the mother, to be in the presence of God, or whatever that may be for you. And I believe that's the invitation for us today, because changing the future is easy. We just need to change one thing. And whatever that one thing is for you, I invite us to come together to join in the one thing that we do know. And that's love and the presence of each other. And it's an honor to come back home again to humanity's team and be a part of humanity's dream, and really to celebrate the life where we are one. Thank you again, and blessings to all of you during this time of year. And may you all enjoy and be safe in your journey forward.
All righty, and thank you, Adam C. Hall, and all of the speakers. Thank you. Wow. And you can see in the chat just lots and lots of beautiful comments here. Garth, let's just show one video. This is a brief 3-minute video we're going to show you. This is Todd Kramer. Let's just show the Todd Kramer, then we're going to come back to me. I'm going to share a little bit, and then we're going to do a little question and answer here with our time remaining. So we're going to watch a 3-minute testimonial video. This is from Todd Kramer.
So my relationship with HT actually started with a combat tour to Iraq. I was sitting in Iraq, and I was sitting in a day room in a secured forward operating base and outside of Baghdad. And that's when I ran across Conversations with God, Neale Donald Walsch's first book, book 1. And I asked everybody, whose it was, and nobody claimed it. And I started reading it. And I'll be honest with you, sitting in a war-torn country being shot at, I just could not wrap my head around what it was telling me, but I knew there was something in there I needed to know. And I kind of put that to the wayside for a while. And then I came home and things got really dark. And I relapsed from alcoholism. I'd been sober for 11 years. And I just wanted to die. So I attempted that. And after my suicide attempt, all these veterans wrapped themselves around me. I got healthy real quick. And that's when I remembered this message of oneness. I felt like I was a warmonger. I'm one of these that suffer from moral injury, things I've done and seen in combat that I cannot wrap my head around. And that's when I found HT. I found a lecture from Dr. Wayne Dyer, who mentioned Neale Donald Walsch, and that sparked that remembrance. And that's when I really got into Neale's first couple of books. And then the next thing you know, that led me to a website, which led me to a job posting by Humanities Team. And the next thing you know, I'm sitting in Oklahoma on a video call with Nanette Kennedy and Dee Meyer, and that started so many things in my life. I mean, I think I said it before. I felt like a warmonger at first, and these people in HT nursed me back to health, and I can't be more grateful for that. I've been thinking of ways for years to integrate HT into the veteran community, and sure enough, Tim No reached out to me not too long ago and said we'd like to offer gift subscriptions to any veteran for Humanities Stream that would take it. And at first I didn't think I'd get any takers on that, but it really warmed my heart when I had several veterans take these gift subscriptions. So I can't speak enough about Humanities Team. I'll always be a member. We all talk often, and yeah, thank you, Humanities Team. Thank you, Steve, Dee, Nanette, Garth, Carrie Beach, all these people that just kind of rocked me back to health and made me realize what this is all about, the gift of oneness. So thank you.
Okay, Todd Kramer. Yeah, thank you, Todd. So I'm going to just share a little, and then we're going to get to to question and answer here with you all. When I shared earlier, I said there were three invitations there to come back and become familiar with the Changing Humanities Future initiative, the action steps so we can deepen our own conscious journey, and to donate. Now, when we launched this initiative in the spring, we shared we wanted to raise $3 million in 2022 and 2023 so that we can leave cash flow based growth and just get all of these things we've been talking about here, in particular the streaming platform, out in the world so that it's multilingual on the video training side, and also conscious. We can go to the stream site and see, oh, there's a Qigong based program going on now. Oh, there's a discussion group. Oh, there's a special guest on screen, and I want to come into the green room and ask questions. That is a great interest. So we're launching more and more and more of these live programs, and we're launching these as multilingual, of course, because we want the platform in every home, in every region of the world, in every language, or every major language anyway. Todd was referencing our 1-for-1 program. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. So we created a 1-for-1 program where every person that's purchasing the stream as a one-time thing or with the monthly payments, gifts a free subscription to an underprivileged, underserved person somewhere in the world. That's part of what we do. Okay, so we opened up this $3 million request in the spring. We raised about $125,000 in the summer. And so we're still raising money. I want to invite you to just feel into what we're doing here. Is this perhaps your why? Do you feel the importance and the urgency of this work that we're taking this platform and this conscious community and extending it all over the world? Do we have an intersection of our why and your why? Do you want to be on this one team, Humanities Team? And if so, want to invite you to contribute. You can contribute now. We're going to put a link, and I think we already have a few times in the Zoom window. And during the holidays, and most of us here on the Conscious Journey probably have philanthropic interests. And if this is your why too, if you deeply resonate with this work, we want to invite you to save the link, and you can contribute here during the holidays. Now, I want to share, we did raise about $125,000 in the spring. I want to thank everybody, and probably some of you were contributors to that. Trent Block gave $50,000. Olivia Hansen gave $25,000. So I want to just single them out as just with a huge thank you. This is an enormous amount of money for them. These are not centimillionaires or billionaires at all. So this was a stretch where they said, you know what? That dream right there, you're changing humanity's future. That dream, that's my dream. And so they stretched into those kinds of gifts. And with those gifts, we've been able to do a number of things. One, to look into strategically this whole Changing Humanity's Future initiative over these 18 years, and to say, as we unfold it, what are the things we can do where we're going all the way to, in cities and towns across the world, putting people on the ground, which actually for us is easier than you might think, because we have country coordinators in 60 countries right now. So we already are on the ground. And with funding, just imagine what we can do where we're putting this library of all this conscious media on the ground, and they're showing it in libraries and schools, and so much more. So this was one of the things that we did with those funds. We created a public awareness campaign. You've maybe seen it. We mostly had it on Facebook. We're adding it over on TikTok now, where it talks about conscious living and just the importance of it. We've got numerous, actually, some of the thought leaders that are on the screen here with us today were in that video. So we are adding 3 languages, Spanish, French, and German. You'll see those come online here in early 2023. And as I mentioned, we've used those funds to add live programs. If you go to the Humanities Team website, you'll even see these featured live programs. There's one starting this week that's Qigong based. There's another one starting next week that is, his name is Chef Ron. He's a vegan chef, and he's won in the Olympics gold, silver, and bronze. So really a terrific chef. These are just 2 of the programs launching in the next couple of weeks. With, you might say, $3 million is a lot of money, and it is, where we truly intend to change humanity's future by 2040. Of course, that means scaling the platform, the technology platform over on the video training side, scaling it on the live side, adding multilingual, the technology support for that platform, and then the staff recruiting and training. So, and 3 million's candidly just a drop in the bucket, where we're really moving aggressively in the direction of elevating this whole conscious living thing. So this whole library is understood by people all over the world. At the present time, right where I started at the beginning of this program, remember, I was sharing the problem that caused us to start the initiative. The problem I know you're well aware of, because you've been in these conversations with the hand wringing of all this stuff is going on. Is there any way out? And we need to create public awareness as soon as we can. A powerful, effective social media and other forms of media that really elevates this whole conscious living message. So people all over the world, when they're in these conversations, can say, you know, somebody becomes the voice in that group and says, hey, you know, why are we sitting here with all of the worry stuff when there's something so much more important that we can do, you know, which is to live consciously. It's right under our nose here, so to speak, where we live fully into this oneness thing, this wholeness thing, this divinity thing, this love-based thing, which is what we're all going to return to at the end of this physical life. So some of the speakers have emphasized and really put into words so beautifully. Okay, so that's a little bit about the starting of this campaign, the initial invitation to raise money, what we've done with that funds, and what we want to do with funds that we raise now. And again, just invite you here now during the holidays with your family, your coworkers. If we've got an intersection here where you're saying, wow, you know, I'm on Humanities Team. I want to get Humanities Stream Plus out in the world. it's important and it's urgent, then invite you to contribute now, contribute during the holidays. And I want to thank you so much for just being here to be in the conversation with these incredible guests that have come on to share their heart. And I want to thank you, the viewers, for just spending your part of your day to be here for this, what we believe is incredibly important and urgent conversation, and invite you to take it with you now out in the holidays to your families, your friends, your coworkers. You're here, as has been mentioned. It's not a random thing at all. You're here for a reason. You knew to come here. And now, some of you are going to become the voice, the embodiment, and the expression of conscious living. And that's how this whole thing's going to spread to the 8 billion people out in the world. Okay, so with that, let's jump into any questions here. I think Dee Meyer, Timothy, Noah, were going to help me with that. We have still 4 or 5 minutes. So pardon, we candidly, we did go over a little here. And this is what happens when people are passionate. I was talking about passion and devotion and dream that we're putting on the ground. Guess what happens? We're not going to just stay right inside of the time limits that we set. So, but maybe we did something more important here, where we just ignited a heart revolution here with this whole discussion around something that is so important here as we're wrapping up 2022 and going into 2023. Okay, so Timothy and Dee, anything that you see that you think I should get to here right now?
Thank you, Steve. What a wonderful program. Thank you, Steve, and everybody. Some people in chat have joined late, and they're wondering if there will be a replay available.
Yes, so I think we will be putting this out as replay. Our team has to meet and decide what we should do, but why not? Yes, so we'll send a replay out, I think, to everybody that's registered for the program. We may put it on our Humanities Team homepage, maybe even let people on social media that weren't able to be here sign up to receive the link. I mean, wow, we wouldn't want to miss this wisdom, would we?
Thank you, Steve. Now, honestly, most of the chats are comments of just praise and appreciation for all of the speakers. Every speaker has just such accolade. So thank you all in the chat. We'll probably sift through these and really sit with all your comments. But there is a few people, Steve, are asking about the 1-for-1, particularly with veterans. And people are asking if veterans would have access to the 1-for-1 program.
So yes, before I get to that, let me share, because Timothy's on screen with me. Timothy has a live program. So we were talking about launching all these live programs. He's got an amazing program called The Next 12 Steps. I think it's 4 Mountain Time? Do I have that right? Or
4 Pacific today. 4 Pacific today.
4 Pacific. So it's on Wednesday. So today, 4 Pacific. And be sure, if you go to the Humanities Team homepage and pull down events, you'll see his activity. He's got a growing audience there for the Next 12 Steps. Be sure to join him. I think you'll get a lot out of it. So now, getting to the question that you were bringing to me here, Timothy. And I'm sorry, so in kind of going off track here.
Well, yeah, the 1-for-1 access, particularly with veterans, they're wondering if veterans would have access to 1-for-1.
Right. Yes. So if there are people, so Todd Kramer, as he mentioned, he is a source now for veterans that are in these trauma states. If there's somebody here that is representing veterans with these kinds of trauma issues, et cetera, do reach out to us. I think support@humanitiesteam.org might be the best way to reach out to us. We are on the lookout always for groups that are conscious, where there really is not a budget for it's pretty affordable, the Humanities Stream Plus platform. So for example, outside of the United States, $399 is an enormous amount of money. We're a very financially wealthy country, actually North America in general. So we're especially on the lookout outside of the US, but yes, in this country too, where veterans groups and other groups where you feel there's a really worthy group that is underserved, underprivileged, do come to us, support@humanitiesteam.org, and we can look at your group.
Thank you, Steve. The last question from Phil. Phil is wondering how do we practically contribute besides giving financially?
So yeah, this was where I wanted to start in the beginning. I don't know if Phil was here when we started, but there really are three invitations here in this meeting. One, go to changinhumanitiesfuture.org, changinhumanitiesfuture.org. Read that page. There's quite a lot there. It really gets to all of what this initiative is, what we hope to accomplish, why we're raising funds, etc. That's the first call to action. The second one, at the top of the page, there's an action step button. Click on that action step button. What we've done is from a material, in particular Conversations with God, we've rounded up some of that wisdom, especially from the last book, the 9th book. It's called Book 4, Conversations with God, Awaken the Species. And this was came out, I think, around 2017. And it specifically addresses what we can do now, here, today, on this planet to become more conscious individually and collectively as we journey to this destination of full awakening on the planet. The third is to financially contribute. So those are the three calls to action here today.
Thank you, Stephen. That seems to be all the bulk of the questions here.
Okay, fantastic. We're only 1 minute over, so hooray, we did it. We like to stay in time integrity. I want to, again, let me just start with you, viewers. Thank you for for spending part of your day with us for such an important, urgent topic. Thank you. Spread the word. You know, you're here not just for yourself, but for your family, your coworkers, your friends. Just get out in the world with this message of conscious living if this is your why also, and if you want to be on Humanity's team also. And then our speakers, thank you. They were amazing, all of them. Thank you. Todd Kramer, thank you. And then the team supporting this here, you can see on screen, Timothy Noah, but Garth Catterall, Jim Gray, Dee Meyer, Andy Guski, and Nanette Kennedy, and others. So all of my partners and colleagues in the Humanities team, thank you guys for making the program possible. Hey, enjoy the holidays, everybody. And hey, this is the beginning, not the end, right? Off we go here. We're going to go change humanity's future. Let's do it.